Hello and welcome to Repair Shop 101. This is the first one I've done, so bear with me. Tonight we're going to attempt to replace the motor, I think. We got to find out what's wrong with it first. So let's get started here. First off, what you need is a truck, obviously. I like to start out with like a maintenance log. I don't know if you can see that. I can't zoom in anymore on that, but just kind of recording what you've done to the truck, so that way you can kind of keep track of, you know, how long the parts are lasting, what you did to it last, and all that good stuff. Alright, well, let's get going, and like I said, please bear with me. This is my first one. There may be an easier way to do this. Everybody has their preferences, but this is my way I feel is the best. So do it my way, dang it. Okay, let's get started here. Now to remove the cover, to save time, I've already removed the receiver box cover. We're probably going to have to go in there. What we got going on here is the symptoms of this truck is it doesn't move. It steers, but it don't move. So let's turn the bad boy on here and kind of see what we got happening. Alright. We've got steering, some, but we have no nothing on the motor. So that tells me that the motor's shot. But there's a good simple way to test that, so let's do that right now. What you want to do is, I have another motor, stock Saturn 27 tune for the Wheelie King. I know that motor works, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug our motor leads here, plug them into this motor, and if it makes this motor work, then obviously we have a motor situation. If not, we move on to the next step. So let's try that right now, shall we? Okay, as you can see, I unplugged the motor that's in the truck, and it's no longer connected. And I connected the spare motor that's in my hand to there. So let's see what we got here. We're going to get lucky and it just be the motor. And it's just the motor. So by that motor moving like that, that tells me that everything else is working properly. Okay, as you can see, I took the other motor off that we're going to replace this motor with. So all we need to do is, first off, is remove the housing of the receiver box, take out our receiver, and then as you can see, there's another screw right down in here. If I could get the camera that could focus better. I apologize again about the quality of the video. As you can see down in there, there's two screws in the receiver box, one on each side. I have removed them. It enables me to take the receiver box right out of the way. And you can get into the covering for the motor. And how you take the housing off here, Wheelie King went ahead and it's just kind of simple. You just a couple body clips, if you will, and take them off. There's one there, one there. As you can kind of see here, I got the gearbox cover off, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter, it's just cover. You can see the pinion gear and the spur gear. And for those of you that don't know the difference, the small one right here is the pinion gear, and the bigger one is the spur gear. And the spur gear setup it's in a good shape, so we don't have to worry about that. What I'm going to do next is we trick out these two screws here to remove the motor. First, before we can take out them screws to take the motor off to replace it, we have to remove the pinion gear by the little screw right where my screwdriver is. One quick note here on the motor, see I got one screw out, but the other screw on the right side. When you put the motor back on, you want to make sure the screw is back in that position, so take note of where that screw is on the sliding bracket. It'll save yourself a lot of headache when you put the motor back in. Okay, as you can see, when you remove those two screws, the motor comes out freely. And she's out. And put that aside and take your other motor that you know works and just reverse the process. So in this case, we'll just put the motor back in, like just to kind of watch how the other one was taken out, so I kind of have an idea. So I'll put the screws back in now, And again, like I said, we got to watch the one screw on the right because there's a slide. We want to make sure it's all the way down on the bottom like it was when we took the other one out. As you can see, I got the motor back in there. It's all nice and tight. Connect these two wires back together and we'll test this motor, make sure it's working before we go any further. And we got forward and we got reverse. Okay, the motor works. So now what we need to do is put the pinion gear back on and make sure our gear set is proper. And I'll do that and we'll move on to the next step. As you can see, I have the motor back in, pinion gears back on, and good rule of thumb, when you replace the pinion, you want to make sure that the flat part of the rotator shaft, or whatever, I'm not good at technical terms, but the flat part's got to be up so the pinion can lock onto it. And you want to make sure the pinion's in a nice center on the excuse me, on the spur gear. So now what we want to do is put the cover back on, but we got to make sure that we have our mesh, our gear mesh, proper, because if that ain't right, it's not going to sound right, not work right, and nobody wants that. So let's get the mesh together. But by doing this, I'm going to have to, what you want to do is you want to get it tight, then you turn the truck on and you test it out and you listen. If it's high-pitched squealing, you got it too tight, so you can adjust it from there. So I'm going to adjust the mesh right now. I got the mesh all good, everything works good, truck goes backwards and forwards, so this problem has been solved. But we're not finished yet. We need to put the gear cover back on, which I'll do right now. And remember, you need to put these body clips or E-clips or whatever they're back in to hold the cover on. So I'm going to put the gear cover back on right now, and then we have to put the receiver box back in place. As you can see, I've got the cover back on. Make sure you get the little clips back in place to hold the gear cover on. The receiver box is back in place. Make sure that the little rubber grommet, or whatever you want to call it here, washer, stays in place. If it don't, your gearbox won't be waterproof anymore. You put the receiver back inside the box on the side like so. Make sure that's all nice and tight and snug in there. And you take your cover, put that back on, and these three top screws need to be tightened down. I'll do that and be right back with you. The receiver box is all back in place, the motor's tight, the cover is on. All we have left to do is just kind of tidy up a little bit by taking these two wires, and we're going to take a zip tie, a small one, and zip tie them together so they're nice and pretty inside there. I chose a blue zip tie because it's the only color I had. Okay, as you can see, our truck is all back together. It's all nice and zip tied in there so it looks nice and tight, everything's snug and secure. Let's set her on the floor and make sure we got ourselves a run. Okay, everything's good. This truck is ready to go. So you always want to make sure you shut your truck off. Make sure your controller's off too, otherwise you lose battery power. And running LiPo batteries, you definitely want to make sure you unplug them. Thank you for watching, and I hope that that is very helpful and useful. And I hope to have another video up soon. So if it helped, awesome. I'm glad I could help. If you want to see more, go to www.teamextremrc.com and keep them on all fours. We'll see you next time.